Well, for those of you who remember, this past winter I ended up bringing home a Lincoln welder generator. It was in really tough shape engine-wise, and there was a lot of rust in it. We weren't able to get it freed up, but I still have it around. The engine's here, and the rest of the welder's up behind the hill. But today, I just brought home another one. Same deal, Lincoln LincWelder225 welder generator. It's a little more updated of a version. It has the plastic knobs on the dials on the back, and also the amp meter, and the battery charging switch, along with the ignition and the starter button, and everything else was right back here on the panel, whereas on my other one it was up front. So I just pulled this home. I haven't really had a chance to look over it real good. I figured I would in the video. This one has the dry type air cleaner rather than the other one that had an oil bath. It also has different mufflers on it because that one has some odd ones that exhaust out the side. But luckily, it was sitting outside, but it had caps on the mufflers, which is great because it rolls over, has good compression compared to the other one that didn't roll over. Has the automatic throttle adjuster thing, and that seems like everything moves, so hopefully that'll work. Carburetor, same deal as the other one. It was under a pine tree at one point with a tarp because it's got a lot of pine needles and stuff I gotta blow off of it. Everything underneath the shroud is moved around a bit. I don't know what this is called, but it's different from what the other one is. This piece here is the same. They added a little shroud here. Gas tank's in a different location. A little bit bigger, I think, it looks like. Battery trays still has 2 on each side. It's been sitting a while. I'm not sure how long. The gas in it doesn't look real great. It's a little red, so it's been a couple years at least. But engine's got oil in it without water, so you can't beat that. Air cleaner. Everything looks fairly decent inside, so I think it was kept up for a while and someone was using it because it was repainted. You could tell the engine, the shroud that goes over the welder has got some different paint on it. But the goal for this one is to get it running and then get it into working order. And I got the whole other one to use for parts, which is nice. Always to have a parts machine. So anyways, I'm going to start by cleaning it up, and then we can start looking into the welder and getting that all cleaned out so we can get the engine running. Alright, I got everything blown off with the hair. I got the engine shroud off, and it cleaned up pretty good. Everything's blown out of the fins, so that way it's ready to be worked on. Blew off the generator and everything, and right now, what I'm trying to do is just clean up the end of the armature here where the brushes ride. As you can see, all of a sudden it'll start to turn very dull. I'm trying to get that mold and mildew off of there, so that way when I go to spin this up, everything doesn't get caught down into the brushes and then get stuff out of the grooves. So I just got a small piece of Scotch pad here, and I'm just wiping those down. And you can see there's still a lot of crap on there because that should be nice bright copper, but I'm getting the majority of it out so that way it doesn't ruin too much at least. Alright, now if I can hold the camera here, I don't see any spark. Now they're a little dull from setting, so they'll have to get cleaned up. Grab some 400 grit sandpaper and we'll run it through it. See if we can get those contacts nice and shiny. I don't know if you guys caught that, but it has a nice white hot spark, and that's on both of them too. Yeah, already popped off. Well, there you go. It's got the plastic float from the looks of it. It's got water in it too. You can see it in there, so that's all gonna have to be drained out, and then I'll put it through the bead blaster and blast out the inside of it, and that should clean up pretty good. And I'll have to make another gasket for it. Alright, this morning I took the carburetor off and I ran it through the bead blaster, the glass bead, and it cleaned up really nice inside, so it's almost back to brand new aside from the pitting. Took all the jets out of it, cleaned all the jets out, so those are all set. Floats good, tested it in some water, so no problems with that. Top half of the carburetor looks good. Had to file it down because somebody was hitting the side of it right there, if you could see it, and it kind of dimpled up, so just so the gasket will sit nice and flat. I was able to salvage the gasket off of it, so I traced it out on a piece of paper here, and I'm going to use some leather punches, and we'll get that punched and cut out so that way you can put that back together. Alright, I got the manifold. That all has the gasket sealer on it, so I can see if I can drop this on without too much trouble. Should go on pretty easily. Everything's back on the engine and ready to go. What I did do is I took apart the fuel bowl, I cleaned that out. I had to cut a new filter screen for it because it was missing one. Carburetor's back on, all the fuel lines back. I got rid of the inline fuel filter. I was having problems with the fuel pump, and I got that working again. I had to clean it out. But the problem I'm having now is I don't think the float's seating, because I don't know if you can see it dripping in there. You can keep pumping the fuel pump, and it really should stop when the float seats, but what it's doing is it's just dumping it right into the carburetor because it's pumping so much in because it's not seating. So what I'm going to do is fire this up and just let it burn off what it has in the carburetor, and then maybe I'll turn the gas back on and see if it keeps flooding itself or not. But anyways, this will be the initial startup. I've got the throttle pinned in the low idle section, so that way it's not going to just wide open itself. So we'll roll it out and give it a couple pulls. The idle control kicked in, so that's a good thing. Hopefully it'll stay running. Might have to adjust it. Alright, so it does run. We had to work out some bugs on it, because I did shut off. The carburetor was getting pumped full of fuel with the fuel pump because the needle and the float, they weren't seating right. So I ended up running it, and there's three, I don't know if you can see them on the camera, but there's three air holes. There's one there, and there to vent the bowl. And the fuel pump just puked up a ton of gas up through here and ran down into the manifold. So I finally got the float adjusted right. It's really far down, but it still has enough to run the engine, and it's not coming up through here. It's not leaking out everywhere, so that's good. So I'm going to fire this up for you guys. I got it to run nice and even now, and the throttle control does work nicely. Unfortunately, we can't get anything out of the generator. I'm going to have to get some more brushes for it, because the springs for this brush, I think right now, are grounding out on the brush holder. So it's not putting out anything for the welder. And then some of this electrical is going to have to be gone through to get contacts and everything, because it's pretty corroded from sitting around. But anyways, I haven't had this running for about an hour or so now, so I'm going to try to do a pull start, and it should fire right back up. So as you can see, the Onan runs pretty good. I ended up having some float trouble halfway through the video and ended up pumping back up through here again. So I'm probably going to end up investing in a float, brand new. Just take care of the problem, don't have to worry about it anymore. So apart from that, it's a good engine, doesn't smoke or anything, runs smooth when it's not flooding itself. And I'm going to have to see if I can get some brushes this week for this. There's a couple of local places I'm going to have to go to first. See if we can get it going, And worst case scenario is pull this engine off and we'll put it on my older welder generator that I got, the earlier style that you guys saw this past winter, because that one, the generator from here forward was in a bit better of shape, electrical and mechanical wise, than this one is. But I'm going to be picking up another one come next weekend. Same thing, a DC 225. I don't know what model it is, or if it's a new one like this or the older style, what condition or anything like that, but supposedly it runs and it works, so that's always a good thing. But until then, when I get it, I'll be sure to do a video on it and I'll keep you guys updated. So that's all for now.